So right here at LowWeb 09, you are from Ribbit. Ribbit is a BT project, right? Can you explain what it is?
Ribbit's a part of BT. What it does is it gives a way to deal with telephony from the internet world. So it lets you do anything you can do with a telephone, with making calls, voicemails, SMS, anything like that with the web API. So you can construct applications that do telephony over the web.
So this is really enabling voice over IP, isn't it?
Voice over IP is part of it, but it also connects ordinary voice calls. It also connects to Skype and Google Talk and other ways of doing that. It's supposed to be a very general way of dealing with the voice world in the web world.
I think what we're doing is we're taking voice and saying, making it an application as people do with VoIP is only one step of the journey. Understanding voice as a function that you can call within whatever process you're doing, whatever workflow you're doing, is the valuable thing. But as important as anything as that is, it's really understanding we're moving into a three-layered world for telephony. There is infrastructure, but you can't compete on facilities alone. There is an enabling environment, which is what we believe very strongly at Ribbit, and then you create the playing field for over-the-top applications. But the over-the-top application is not what we decide is the answer. It's what you decide is the answer, because our job is to show you the art of the possible with the enabling technology.
This is a platform.
It's a platform, absolutely. And we have 25,000 developers right now.
25,000?
Yeah, and it's growing. So.
And it's a BT project. Is that
Absolutely.
Yeah, so BT is a huge phone company, right? And they're doing voice over IP projects like this. And can I ask you if it's why are they doing voice over IP? Aren't some people saying that it's kind of the biggest threat for them? Or is it okay question? Or
it's not a question of a threat if you're going to pretend it is not happening in the world. Right? I have other words for it rather than threat. I think that the main thing is that as we recognize that the customer value is by reducing the distance between the customer and the application, then we have to find open innovation approaches, partnering, communities, developer franchises. In order to do that, you have to open up your APIs. In order to do that, you have to have a platform. So it's not that we have to pretend VoIP doesn't exist. It's what does the customer want for simplicity and convenience, right? Because a telco is not in the business of having a network to shut everybody else out. The telco is in the business of providing service to a customer. Okay, so as soon as you switch focus from saying are we an owner of infrastructure to are we here to provide services to our customer, then the step is logical. But besides that, we already don't control last mile access in the UK. We're not tethered to a single mobile operator, so we look different. And that means that it is easier for us to believe that our core job is to make the life of the customer better. Right? Now, from a customer perspective, what would you prefer? That I said no to VoIP or yes to VoIP?
Yes, it would be great if somehow...
That is the answer.
It got some kind of legal also to use 3G access to the voice over IP. What I understood is that some telecos are kind of bandwidth throttling and blocking it, or what are they doing? Is there anything like that? You hear about it? Or...
Some networks want to make sure you make voice calls with voice and don't want to let you run them over the top. And some of that's bandwidth reasons, and some of it is just they want you to make voice calls. And we don't see that. We want you to make calls the way you want to make calls. We want to transform, we want to turn voice into data and turn text into voice, and make sure that you can get it in the way that you want it, rather than what fits a particular business plan that was decided 10 years ago by somebody else.
Because, for example, is the iPhone blocking VoIP or not really, or what? What is
hard to tell. There's a lot of complications going on there.
Your application, is it working on this iPhone?
It's waiting to be approved.
It's waiting?
Yes.
So are you not allowed to talk about it? Is that what happens?
Well, we don't know. When it's waiting, we're waiting to hear what Apple says about it.
It's in Apple's hands.
Yeah.
Is it like a contract where companies that are waiting are not allowed to say complain, or?
Well, you can talk to Apple, but it's just there's no point telling people about our application if they can't get it. So while it's waiting, companies are quiet.
So isn't it like you think maybe the Skype app is waiting as well for like the last year, 6 months, or
some of these have been there waiting a long time.
Voice is waiting. everybody's waiting to come in, but they're somehow blocking it, and they're saying, what are they saying? They're just waiting. What's going on?
Well,
Because they see it as a threat, right? They see AT&T and Apple, they make all their money through voice calls, no? And SMS.
Apple doesn't make much money from voice calls. Apple makes money from selling hardware.
Yeah, they don't make a percent on. They make like $1,000 on each iPhone, don't they?
yeah, but it's not based on voice minutes.
Yes, no, it's voice calls.
That's based on hardware sales. So really, at the end of the day, every time there is a new technology that comes through, there'll be some level of tension about what it displaces, what it substitutes, and it takes a little while for the market to stabilize. Right? VoIP is not new. I mean, the first time you saw it was probably 10 years ago. So, so it's it is just reaching a maturity point where it is more common for the man on the street to say, oh, I want to see whether I can get a wireless connection, get a VoIP phone going on it, etc. But the answer is, as Kevin was saying, it's not VoIP. The most important thing is it's VoIP functionality accessible whichever way the customer wants it. Okay? So I have a family of 3 children, 24 to 11. They will use whatever connection they consider the best for them at the time. So if they're somewhere and they watch their 3G signal dropping, they'll say, let's see how the wireless is at the time. And I'm sure that will continue. Okay? At home, given a choice, my son will say, okay, I'm going to go to the Ethernet pipe if I want to transfer a fat file. Okay? And all the children will go to the wired part of the house whenever they want to do bulk file transfer, get it onto their device, and then work wirelessly wherever they want. So the idea is not VoIP is good and wired is evil. It's saying, what are you trying to do? And optimize the device, the connection, and the content across that. Okay? And that's the world I hope we're heading to, which is you get what you want, where you want it, when you want it, how you want it. In the meantime, there will be some battles as people figure out how to deal with historical monopolies. At BT, we don't have that problem. So we smile.
Big change. Can I ask you one last question? Okay. What do you think? Do you think the Google phone is for real? Do you have any secret information?
I have no idea. I think
that's like asking me whether the Apple flat screen is for real.
We have no idea what other companies are up to. I mean, the point is there is a trend to make phones more open and less phone-like and more computer-like, make computers more phone-like. And as the stuff starts being back and forth, people start expecting every device to behave in a useful way and not have one device for each thing. So that's a key part of why we're building infrastructure that lets you translate things from one format to another.
Absolutely.
Okay, thanks a lot. Thanks.